Somewhere right now, there is a buried vault containing over $90 million in gold and silver, its location encoded in a cipher that has never been fully cracked. Somewhere under the sand near a small town in Poland, there may be an armored Nazi train that vanished into a tunnel in 1945 and was never found. Somewhere on a remote island in the Pacific, one of the largest collections of looted colonial treasure in history was buried in 1820, and every expedition sent to find it has come back empty. And somewhere in Ethiopia, inside a church that no outsider is permitted to enter, a monk claims to be personally guarding the Ark of the Covenant. These are not legends. They are documented. The gold was real. The ships existed. The ciphers are in archives. The monk gives interviews. 10 treasures, all confirmed to have existed. None recovered. All still theoretically findable. Starting from 10. Number 10. Bedford County, Virginia, 1819. A man named Thomas Jefferson Beale arrived at a Virginia inn with a group of companions. They spent the winter. Then they left, heading west. 2 years later, Beale returned alone. He left a locked iron box with the innkeeper and disappeared. He was never seen again. Inside the box were 3 encrypted documents. One has been partially decoded, using the U.S. Declaration of Independence as the key. It describes a vault containing gold, silver, and jewels buried somewhere in Bedford County, Virginia. The current estimated value, over $90 million. The second cipher, which supposedly gives the exact location, has never been cracked. The third, which lists the names of the treasure's rightful heirs, has never been cracked either. Treasure hunters have been digging up Bedford County for 200 years. The gold is either there, buried in an iron-lined stone vault in the Virginia hills, or the entire thing is an elaborate hoax constructed sometime before 1885, when the ciphers were first published. Cryptographers who have analyzed the decoded cipher say it is too consistent to be fabricated. The encryption methodology is real. The question is whether the treasure it describes is. Nobody has found it. Nobody has definitively proven it doesn't exist. Number 9. Cocos Island, Pacific Ocean, 1820. As revolutionary forces swept through South America, the Spanish colonial government in Lima made a decision. The city's treasure, accumulated over centuries of colonial extraction, needed to be moved before it fell into rebel hands. Gold and silver religious artifacts, jeweled crowns, solid gold candlesticks, life-sized solid gold statues of the Virgin Mary. The accumulated wealth of the most powerful colonial church in the Americas. It was loaded onto a British merchant ship captained by a man named William Thompson and entrusted to him for transport to Mexico. Thompson sailed to Cocos Island, a remote uninhabited island 550 kilometers off the coast of Costa Rica, killed the Spanish guards on board, and buried the treasure. He was captured. His crew was executed. Thompson was spared in exchange for agreeing to lead the Spanish to the treasure. He led them to the island, escaped into the jungle, and was never recaptured. The treasure was never recovered. Cocos Island has been searched hundreds of times by expeditions ranging from organized archaeological surveys to treasure hunters with metal detectors. Every expedition has come back empty. The island is now a protected UNESCO World Heritage Site and a Costa Rican national park. Treasure hunting is illegal. The treasure, if it's there, is legally unfindable. Number 8. The Strait of Malacca, November 1511. The Flor de la Mar was a Portuguese carrack, one of the largest ships of its era, and in 1511 it was carrying what may be the single largest haul of looted treasure in maritime history. Portuguese Admiral Afonso de Albuquerque had just sacked the city of Malacca, the wealthiest trading port in Southeast Asia, and loaded the ship with the plunder: gold, jewels, 60 tons of treasure stripped from the Sultan of Malacca's palace, including, according to historical records, 4 bronze lions and 2 golden statues of such size that they had to be hoisted onto the deck rather than stored in the hold. The ship hit a reef in a storm near the northern coast of Sumatra. It broke apart. Albuquerque survived. Most of the crew did not. The treasure went to the bottom. It is still there, somewhere in the Strait of Malacca, in waters that are among the most heavily trafficked shipping lanes in the world. Multiple governments have claimed rights to it. Portugal, Malaysia, Indonesia, and private salvage firms have all staked positions. Its estimated current value exceeds $2.6 billion. Nobody has found it. The exact location of the wreck, in a high-current, heavily silted, geologically active strait, remains unknown. Number 7. Wałbrzych, Poland, 1945. As Soviet forces closed in on Nazi-controlled Poland in the final weeks of the war, Witnesses reported an armored train loading gold, artworks, weapons, and valuables at Breslau modern-day Wrocław and disappearing into a tunnel system beneath the Owl Mountains. The train never emerged. The tunnel system beneath those mountains was built by Nazi forced labor as part of Project Reese, a massive underground construction program whose full purpose was never publicly documented. The tunnels exist. They are real. They are extensive, and several of them were sealed at the war's end. In 2015, two men, a Pole and a German, claimed to have located the train using ground-penetrating radar and demanded a 10% finder's fee from the Polish government before revealing the location. Polish geologists conducted their own scans. Their conclusion: no evidence of a train. But, and this is the detail that keeps the story alive, the tunnel system has never been fully excavated. Several sealed sections have not been opened. The ground-penetrating radar used in the 2015 investigation was not deployed across the entire network. The Polish government continues to receive permit applications from treasure hunters every year. The train may not exist, but the tunnels do, and nobody has fully looked. Number 6. Somewhere in the American Southwest, 1520. When Spanish conquistador Hernán Cortés arrived in the Aztec capital Tenochtitlan in 1519, he found a civilization of extraordinary wealth. Emperor Montezuma II received him as a guest, and Cortés repaid the hospitality by taking Montezuma hostage and looting the treasury. On the night of June 30, 1520, La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows, the Aztecs rose against the Spanish. Cortés and his men fled Tenochtitlan in the middle of the night, abandoning most of the treasure they had seized. That gold was never recovered by the Spanish. The Aztecs reclaimed it, and according to persistent historical accounts, a significant portion was moved north, away from the advancing conquistadors, and hidden. Where it went is disputed. Some accounts place it in southern Utah, near a location called Kanab, where local legends of a hidden cave filled with Aztec gold have persisted since the 19th century. Others suggest it remained in Mexico, buried in locations that were never documented. The documented historical fact that an enormous quantity of Aztec gold disappeared during the Spanish conquest and was never accounted for is not disputed. Where it went is. If missing treasures worth billions, documented, real, and still theoretically findable, keep you watching, subscribe. Things that shouldn't exist goes this deep every single week. Number 5. Königsberg, Germany, 1945. The Amber Room was one of the most extraordinary objects ever created. Built in the early 18th century for the Prussian royal palace, it was an entire room paneled in 6 tons of carved amber, warm, golden, translucent, backed with gold leaf and mirrors. Contemporary visitors describe standing inside it as standing inside a solid bar of sunlight. Peter the Great of Russia was given it as a diplomatic gift in 1716. It was installed in the Catherine Palace near St. Petersburg, where it remained for over 200 years. In 1941, German forces invaded the Soviet Union and seized the Catherine Palace. They dismantled the Amber Room panel by panel 18 large crates and transported it to Königsberg Castle in what is now Kaliningrad, Russia. In 1945, Soviet forces closed in on Königsberg. The Amber Room was packed up again. And it disappeared. The most widely accepted theory: it was loaded onto a ship that was sunk by Soviet forces, or it burned in the firebombing of Königsberg. But no physical evidence of its destruction has ever been found. A partial reconstruction was completed in the Catherine Palace in 2003, built from historical photographs and surviving fragments. The original is gone, whether it's at the bottom of the Baltic Sea, buried in a sealed German bunker, or quietly in private hands somewhere. Nobody knows. It is worth an estimated $500 million. Number 4. Paris, October 13, 1307. The Knights Templar were the most powerful military religious order in medieval Europe. Bankers to kings, holders of vast properties across the continent, and guardians of a treasury accumulated over 2 centuries of crusading. On October 13, 1307, a Friday, King Philip IV of France ordered the simultaneous arrest of every Templar in France. The charges, heresy, blasphemy, and crimes too scandalous to be repeated in polite company. Most historians believe the charges were fabricated. Philip owed the Templars an enormous amount of money and wanted them gone. The arrests were coordinated and total, except for one thing: the Templar treasury was gone. When Philip's agents arrived at the Paris Temple, the order's European headquarters and financial center, the vaults were empty. The treasure had been removed days before the arrests. 18 Templar ships left the port of La Rochelle the night before the arrests. Where they went and what they were carrying was never established. Theories range from Portugal to Scotland to Nova Scotia's Oak Island, where a documented series of excavations since the 1700s has found engineered booby traps, flood tunnels, and worked stone at depth, suggesting someone built something down there to stay hidden. The Templar treasury has never been found. The ships were never accounted for. And Oak Island is still being excavated. Number 3. And this one is different from every other entry on this list. We know exactly where this treasure is. The mausoleum of Qin Shi Huang, China's first emperor, the man who unified the country in 221 BC and built the Great Wall, sits beneath a large artificial hill near Xi'an in Shanxi province. The location has been known for centuries. Ancient historical records describe what's inside. Rivers of liquid mercury flowing through a scale model of China, palaces, towers, precious stones representing stars on a ceiling, crossbow booby traps set to fire at intruders. In 2020, soil testing around the mound confirmed extraordinarily high mercury levels, far above any natural concentration. The tomb has never been opened. The Chinese government has chosen not to excavate it, officially citing insufficient preservation technology to protect what's inside from exposure to air and light. The terracotta army, the 8,000 soldier burial figures found in the outer pits, is the only portion that has been partially excavated. When they were first exposed to air, their paint began fading within minutes. The technology to preserve them wasn't ready. If that is what's happening in the outer pits, what is in the inner chamber is beyond current preservation capability. The most documented, most precisely located treasure in human history, sitting under a hill, unopened, possibly forever. Number 2. In approximately 587 BC, the Babylonian king Nebuchadnezzar II destroyed Solomon's temple in Jerusalem, the most sacred structure in the ancient world and the repository of the Ark of the Covenant. The gold-covered chest said to contain the original stone tablets on which the Ten Commandments were inscribed. The Ark disappears from the historical record at this point. It is not listed among the treasures Nebuchadnezzar took to Babylon. It is not mentioned in any subsequent account of the Jerusalem temple. It simply vanishes. Theories have proliferated for 2,600 years. The most compelling is Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox Church, one of the oldest Christian traditions on earth, claims the Ark was brought to Ethiopia by Menelik I, the son of King Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, centuries before the Babylonian invasion. They say it has been in the Church of St. Mary of Zion in Axum ever since. A single monk, the guardian of the Ark, is the only person permitted to enter the inner sanctuary where it is supposedly held. He gives occasional interviews. He says it is there. He will not allow it to be examined. Other theories place it in a cave beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, a location that cannot be excavated because it sits under one of the holiest Islamic sites in the world. Or in Egypt, where a recently translated ancient Hebrew text suggested it may have been hidden. The Ethiopian Church's claim is ancient, consistent, and internally coherent. It has never been verified, but never disproven. Number 1 is not a single treasure. It is the observation that connects all 10 entries on this list. The Beale gold, if it exists, is in a field in Virginia. The Lima treasure is on an island whose coordinates are known. The Flor de la Mar went down in a shipping lane we sail through every day. Montezuma's treasure vanished into the landscape of a region that has been inhabited continuously for 500 years. The Amber Room disappeared into a war zone that was subsequently occupied, mapped, and rebuilt. And the Qin Shi Huang tomb is sitting under a hill that every archaeologist on Earth knows about, 20 minutes from a major Chinese city. The pattern is this. Most great treasures are not lost in the sense of being in an unknown location. They are lost in the sense of being inaccessible, politically, legally, technologically, or geographically. The Templar ships went somewhere. The question is whether any government with jurisdiction over that somewhere will permit excavation. The Amber Room burned, or it's in private hands, and the owner has no incentive to come forward. The Qin tomb is located and documented, and China has made a sovereign decision not to open it. The greatest treasures in human history are not buried beyond finding. They are buried behind decisions. That is simultaneously more frustrating and more interesting than if they were simply lost. A coded cipher in Virginia. A pirate's haul on a protected Pacific island. 6 tons of amber, somewhere between a bombed German city and the Baltic Sea. A tomb full of mercury rivers and crossbow traps under a hill in China that nobody is allowed to open. And a gold chest that the oldest Christian church in Africa says has been in their possession for 3,000 years, guarded by a single monk who will not let anyone see it. All of it real, all of it documented, all of it still out there. The world is larger and stranger than the version we were given. Next week on Things That Shouldn't Exist, the Antikythera mechanism. A 2,000-year-old Greek device that is a fully functional astronomical computer. The technology required to build it didn't exist for another 1,400 years. A computer built before computers. And the civilization that built it. Subscribe. I'll see you there.